close the gap. NES has 0 teachers who are certified in recommended reading programs such as Orton Gillingham or Wilson for students who are dyslexic, and has not had a teacher certified in this since the school split more than 7 years ago. After all this time, some teachers are finally getting trained, and our SPED department can and should have done better sooner. A parent should not have to fight to get services for their child due to the district not requesting an adequate budget to meet the needs of our students. After 7+ years, we are finally getting certified instructors. We need to spend more money on continuing education and invest more money in our students. What is being proposed, what we are talking about, is larger class sizes, which is terrible for our kids. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'm David Dixon, a year-round resident on Nantucket since 2012. Happy New Year, everybody. Finishing my December 17th public comment, let's look at AP Biology and AP Chemistry scores in 2024 and compare them to 2011 and 2012. Last year, 23 Nantucket high school students took AP Biology and 11 took AP Chemistry. Keep in mind that many universities award college credit for AP scores of 3, 4, or 5. Also, recall that you can receive a 1 by handing in a blank answer sheet. Here are the results. In biology last year, 20 of the 23 students achieved a 3 or higher on their AP exams, including 11 who scored a 4 and 3 who scored a 5. Whereas in 2011 and 2012, 28 of the 30 AP biology students received a 1 on their AP exams. Not one of the 23 AP biology students received a 1 last year. In AP Chemistry last year, 10 of the 11 students scored a 3 or higher on their AP tests, including 4 students who achieved a very impressive score of 4. No student received a 1 last year, whereas 10 of 12 AP Chemistry students in 2012 received a 1 on their AP tests. 10 of the 11 AP Chemistry students in 2024 earned a solid scores of 3 and 4. Thus, while 38 of the 42 students who took AP Biology and AP Chemistry in 2011 and 2012 scored a 1 on their AP exams, 38 out of 42, not a single AP Biology and AP Chemistry student among the 34 students who took those courses last year scored a 1 on the test. Finally, I do not mean to imply that 2024 was a unique year for AP Biology and Chemistry. It certainly wasn't an exceptional year, and it does represent the most recent period. But there have been several solid achievements in AP Science in the years following 2012. In 2019, for example, 30 of the 43 students taking AP Science courses, that is 70%, scored 3 or higher. And in 2023, 81% of students taking AP Science courses achieved scores of 3 or higher, including 91% in biology, 85% in chemistry, and 72% in environmental science. So, congratulations to the students, teachers, and administrators for the outstanding achievements that their very hard work accomplished. Happy New Year.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Superintendent's report.
Yes, well, Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you. I'll start with enrollment, January enrollment. So for January 2025, we are only reporting on 3 schools. One school, there will be a delay, and I'll present that at the next meeting. You will see from the numbers here, I'm not going to go to tell you exactly how many in the district total, but at each school, I'm happy to share those numbers. So at the Nantucket Elementary School, there are 2 additional students for the month of January. At Nantucket Intermediate School, 3 fewer students. At the Cypress Pierce Middle School, we have 1 more student and that basically equals out. So high school will determine our final number for enrollment. We're not seeing huge jumps right now. That is to be determined if we will see any in the coming months with the changes in the enrollment around students coming in from Central and South American countries because their school year starts in February. So we may see something happening at that point, but nothing I can predict at the moment. Additional updates, obviously there's going to be just a few because we have had a long vacation in between, so not too much has happened since our last meeting, but I did want to mention two pieces. Competency determination is still a hot topic right now. I've met with the Cape and Island superintendents. This happened last Friday, and some districts have started drafting policy language that it talks about what competency determination will look like in their district. In particular, the importance is the aligning of curriculum standards with MCAS tests to current coursework, grade 9 and grade 10 in particular. So I'll be working with the principal and the assistant principals of the high school, along with the curriculum directors and potentially also the department leaders for math, science, and ELA, to determine if the coursework that we have available in 9th and 10th grade will allow for certification for competency determination. If you read the FAQ document that I sent out, you would know that the Department of Education will not allow MCAS to be part of the competency determination anymore locally. So even though the state has erased it, the local districts are not permitted to use it as a competency determination. So I will be in touch with the policy subcommittee very soon. We will need to review that policy, and I'll have some draft language coming up soon. It will be important also with the upcoming semester. If there are any students who are currently needing that coursework, we will need to make sure that the courses are available for them, whether it's either within the structure we have in school or if it's anything that will happen outside of school, such as online courses. So we will do our best to make sure that students who are on track to graduate for 2025 have that opportunity. So, Department of Education has not issued any guidance yet. So districts are doing what they can to be ready for this, and what we understand is that for this year, it will be a rather lenient process. As soon as we get more information from the department, we will know for future classes what to expect. So,
I have a question.
sure.
What about students that did not graduate secondary to failing the MCAS?
So,
Are they going to have an opportunity to?
yes, yes. So what will happen is we will need to determine the coursework that they went through to see if the course at that time aligned with the standards from the MCAS, and if they did, if the coursework is the same. So it'll require some digging, especially because we could be talking about 5 years ago. So we'll need to determine if the coursework at that time aligned with MCAS standards for grade 9 and 10 in particular.
At that time?
At that time, right. So it shouldn't be a problem, and the majority of our courses at the 9th and 10th grade level prepare our students for the MCAS. So this is kind of a no-brainer. We expect that our courses can do that. However, there are some courses that are that have to be determined. We have courses that support our students with special needs. We have courses that support our Ls. We need to determine if their coursework aligns with 9th and 10th grade curriculum standards. So those are the students that we will need to be looking at carefully in their what they have been able to do in their coursework. So, but that is going to come. We have to get 2025 taken care of first. They're about to graduate, so these are the students that we have to ensure can get a diploma. We will certainly be helping and supporting students who did not receive a diploma due to the competency determination through MCAS. But we're going to start with 2025, and then we'll be able to go backwards and work that way. So more to come. As soon as we have the policy language in place, you'll get it, we'll review it, and hopefully move forward with that. So. The last piece is about transportation. I think I mentioned this in our last meeting. It's pretty clear that transportation woes are continuing, and Cape Cod Collaborative continues to struggle with finding and keeping bus drivers. We have One of our bus drivers that has informed us that he will only be able to work Monday through Wednesday and has taken another job elsewhere. So I'd like to hold an open discussion with parents, students, teachers, you, and any other members of the community to talk about staggering our start times for two of our schools. The leadership team will be meeting and looking at different options, different start times for the upper schools versus the lower schools. And we'll try to look for a date for a forum in February, still to be determined, but I certainly welcome you to attend.
Well, is that going to be a collective bargaining issue?
It might be if it doesn't stay within the current times for the contract. So it will depend on what that looks like. So.
Simple question. If you stagger start times, does that potentially open up the idea that some teachers might be able to qualify as drivers and then be available to drive at different times?
I'm not sure that teachers would qualify. Going through the process to get a full license for a long school bus, not the vans, is a pretty time-consuming process, and you have to have a CDL, so there's a lot to go with it. However, the vans it's a much shorter process, and that we might be able to find either custodial staff or teaching assistants or others that could potentially drive a van. So that might solve our problems. We have ordered them, and we hope to see them within the next year and a half. So, but I don't know if the staggered times will affect that.
Yep.
So,
Any questions?
No, no questions.
Laura?
No
That's it.
questions.
That seems to be a grab bag. I mean, because then there would have to be negotiated with each of those, with the custodians or anybody else that's driving, because would be a collective bargaining issue.
only if it affects their contract. So if it affects their contract, because it's Cape Cod Collaborative is the employer. So if a custodian that works a 2 to 10 shift wants to do a morning route, they can apply
Okay.
with Cape Cod Collaborative.
Okay.
So.
Okay, presentations and discussions of issues of interest to the committee. Student Success Program. Mr. Vasili.
Hello, everybody. I'm Andrew Vasselli. So I'm a special ed teacher and meditation teacher. I think most of you know me from years past of running the behavioral program and working with the alternative and at-risk population of the school, and with all the added support that's come along in terms of the bridge program. My role has slightly changed. I've also in the past taught biology, and so last year we moved out, started teaching meditation. I do still run 2 study skills classes, and I co-teach a history class. So right now my caseload is 62 kids in my 3 study skills classes. So in that is still primarily the special ed population. Really my focus has been shifted into meditation, mindfulness, breath work, and bringing that holistic practice to the school, not just the kids, to admin, to teachers, to anyone who needs it. And so today I have with me Caroline Collette, who's going to speak. She's one of my students. She actually taught class today, meditation class. So in our class, these are the guiding questions that we ask at the beginning of every meditation. Who am I, right? Not my job title, not my role. Like, who am I as a character? What do I want? I'm trying to get kids to look a little bit deeper than job, money. What do I want out of life, right? Ultimately. And then what is my purpose, right? Why am I here, right? And I think there's been a lot of questions since I retired from volleyball of why are you still teaching? And like, do you still teach? And my answer is, this is my purpose. Like, my job's not done here on Nantucket, and I don't know what that is, but part of it is bringing this to the kids, bringing it to the greater masses of the island and the benefits of meditation. So right now we have semester-long classes. There's 16 and 19 kids signed up. So what we're looking at doing in the course is ultimately we meditate, and Caroline did an awesome job of this today. Every class, 20 minutes for silent meditation. What we're looking at doing is getting the kids to meditate twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night, for a total of 21 days. So we start with a 3-day meditation challenge, then a 10-day, and now they're in a 21-day meditation challenge where they're meditating twice a day for 20 minutes. And that will hopefully sow the seeds that they'll continue this practice. Do they have to continue it? No, they don't have to continue it. But what they have to do is understand that when they're not meditating, they start to acknowledge the things in their lives that weren't as good or going as smoothly as when they were meditating. That's my whole goal. So we're looking to alleviate stress, promote positive thinking, break down anxiety and distress. We've seen all of these things. But really what is happening is we're building emotional resilience. We're building kids who are developing empathy. They're understanding that when they're having a conversation with their parents, with their teachers, with boyfriend or girlfriend, that they're looking at the other person and where they're coming from. Why are they talking to me this way? Why are we having this conversation? What are they going through? As opposed to being reactive. And that is huge, because what we do, and I'm just going to jump ahead here, what we do is we're sharing experiences. Yeah, we sit in a circle and we are guided into meditation, but when we share our experiences, everyone is listening. Like today, Caroline taught, and every kid was able to drop into her meditation, which was beautiful, by the way. And then they offered their thoughts and feelings on it afterwards. And to sit and listen to these kids share their experience from another student is so powerful. So ultimately, the end experiences, they're journaling. They're getting all of the stuff that we have as adults built up out of them every single day. We're meditating every day, and they're writing a paper. So Ms. Vassal, Ms. Hylam, today talked about, our midterms are finals, and our final is writing a paper. How do I grade meditation, right? How does one grade meditation? It could be anything. It can be golfing. It could be cooking. It could be painting. How do we grade what they're doing? So obviously we're in a school and we have certain things that are lined up. One of the things that we do, I think I talked about this last year, is we're doing a mindfulness measure, where we're measuring 10 questions. We're measuring their mindfulness at the beginning. So we measured it in September. We measured it again in December to see if there's any growth. And what's supposed to happen with this measurement is that we see a growth over time, right, through these 10 questions. And what I've found with the 3, 4, I think I've given this 8 times to my different classes, is I'm not seeing a massive sweep. You can see it here in a couple of the kids that the scores are jumping. What I'm finding is that the kids are reading the questions more mindfully and they're answering more mindfully in the middle or the end of the class than they were in the beginning. They're almost understanding the questions more. I had a student come back today and he jumped 6 points from when we took it in September, and he literally walked in. I'm like, dude, I need these numbers for tonight. And he sat down and he did it, and it's just fully understanding who he is as a student, as a learner, and more importantly, just as a human being, and what he needs to do and how to settle down. And these are kids who are opening up. This is a young man, 18 years old, who's sharing about what type of meditation he likes. He likes a meditation that makes him cry because he wants that emotion to move through. And most of us, especially guys, we're here stifling our emotions, and this kid's learning to allow this to pass through, and now he's moving and being able to have conversations, to be more open. His grades are improving. Everything is improving. I'm not saying meditation improves your grades, but it does help. So if you're watching, get your kids in. It's just like what I get to see on a daily basis just blows me away. Caroline's going to jump in and talk about her experience in the class and maybe lead us. So here's part of the challenge that we do, right? I'll leave this up here as she talks, and you guys can look at it.
Hi everybody. So I've gotten into meditation a lot more since I started taking the class last year. So I'm in Intro to Meditation twice, but I love the class so much I wanted to take it again. But I really have seen improvements across the board in my stress and anxiety mostly, because school can be pretty stressful and anxiety inducing at times with all of the academics. And I feel really good that we have a class that it's actually integrated in our time where we can wind down and take a moment for ourselves. Because we can't always do that in school. You don't have the opportunity. But quiet space, comfortable setting. Yeah, everything that we do in meditation is kind of absolved from thinking too hard. It's kind of just giving your mind a rest, and I can see how other people really find it as like a safe space for them. I know I have. And I think a big contributor to that is us sharing our feelings, which Andrew Vaselli talked about. And I think it's probably, to me, I think it's one of the most impactful things that I found in the class is like when you see people share what they're going through, even if it's not too deep, even if it's like, I'm okay today, I don't know, I was kind of stressed about this, you really see how people open up. And people who I've never like really spoken to before, I'm like, oh my god, you're the best and I love you so much. It's like you kind of get to connect with people in that way. And it was the same thing in my first meditation class. By the end of it, it's like everybody was talking and just, like outside of class, like laughing and having fun. It's just people connect, and I think it's because you're able to see people more and you're more self-aware and like, I don't need to hide. I think a lot of people struggle with that in school because you're kind of trying to put on this sort of persona, and that's my favorite thing about the class for sure, because I don't know, it's just kind of like I wouldn't say like obviously it's school, but like it's a group of people who you feel safe with like by the end of the semester. But something I love too is journaling. I don't know. Oh yeah, everything's here. But journaling is a really good way to just kind of let go of all the things you're holding on to. Like for me, sometimes with school, I just kind of dump what I have to do, and then I'm like, wait, this is just stuff. These are just, it's just a to-do list I have in my mind. And then I can really focus on what might be bothering me emotionally, and I just want to sit with and let go of, which just prepares me for when we meditate. And when we meditate, we do a couple of things. We do so many things in meditation that are really great. Like sometimes we go on meditative walks where we're silent, we just take slow steps, and it like regulates your nervous system. It's really calming. We do mandalas, like we just color. It kind of makes you feel like you're a little kid, and it's just so peaceful. You don't even have to think about anything, and it's like, oh my gosh, I have this space in my day where I don't have to be stressed at all. What else? There's so many things. I'm gonna miss this class so much when it's over because I had it at the end of the quarter last year, and I was just like, oh my god, I feel like school is actually really calm for me. But beginning of the semester is what I have now. But all I can say is I'm definitely gonna carry the meditative practices with me. I've been doing them a little bit every day, especially for the challenge. I've had to do it twice a day every day. But even before that, I started integrating them in the summer when I was stressed or anything. For me, it's a lot about just anxiety reduction, which, yeah, it's great. And so that's kind of what I've gained from the class. And I can tell a lot of people have gained things from the class as well. So, yeah, I love it so much. That's all.
So one of the things that I always say is when people ask, what do you do in meditation? Well, we don't do anything, right? I mean, the process of learning to meditate takes a while for the kids to get into, but once there, and the space turns into what Caroline said, this safe space, this place where kids can come to decompress from their day. And right now we're in the process where 2 kids go per class and they guide a 20-minute meditation. And so we've had 4 kids go. And yesterday, someone brought out watercolors and bookmarks, and the kids painted for 20 minutes. And then the kid collected them and is going to laminate them and bring them back. Like, it's just not sitting and chanting Om, and that's meditation for some people. And then today she guided this beautiful meditation. Another student led us on a journal writing short story with prompt for 20 minutes. It's just amazing, and it's a blessing. And again, I thank all the powers that be that allow this class to happen. And it's just super beneficial, and we all know the benefits of it. So
Laura, do you have any questions?
Yeah, it sounds beautiful, and it's wonderful to hear from a student that is participating in it. So is it offered for all 4 grades in high school?
all 4 grades, and then it's either an elective or a wellness credit.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how often do you meet?
Uh,
Like, is it
Re-
daily or
4 days a week.
4 days a week?
Yeah,
Wow.
just like any other class.
That's,
And this is semester long.
wow,
Yeah.
that's wonderful.
And there's times when I tease myself and say, well, let's open it up to every kid in the building, and I'll do it in the LGI or the auditorium. That's getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. Well, I think it's wonderful that to teach those skills and to learn them and be able to access them when you're young. It's something I wish I had.
It's funny
at
because
that
I always
age.
said before about the behavioral programs that those students would teach me what they need, and we're at this point in the class where the students are now showing me different things about meditation that I didn't think about teaching, and so it's amazing how those roles switch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, it's beautiful.
really beautiful. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, and very many thanks for coming to present. It's always great to see students coming and showing what they've learned, and so eloquently so as well. Thank you.
I have no questions or comments.
It sounds very interesting. I think creating a safe space and having kids bring forth ideas is different but interesting, and I think if it helps with the learning, I think it's perfect. I mean, it's a skill, just like everything else is.
It's funny because in research, when I was sending something to admin last year, most every major institution of higher learning in the country has a mindfulness center in it now, and they're seeing the benefit that they need it, and especially around election time. What did college campuses bring on campus during the election? They brought in mindfulness training. They brought in therapy docs. Like, this is what is needed. As much as we're needing more AP classes, we need something for kids to feel safe and to have the nervous system regulated and understand how they can regulate it before they get to the numbing, right? And that's a powerful piece. Yeah.
Thank you both.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, Town of Nantucket budget presentation. Ms. Gibson and Brian Turbot.
Hang on, let me help you. Got it?
Okay, we're gonna tag team this a bit like we normally do, and thank you again for having us in. We always appreciate coming to school committee. This first slide is just an intro slide, and by the way, this is pretty much the exact same presentation we gave to the select board on December 11th, so Vince probably has already heard this, but we'll try to shorten it up a bit for maybe things that aren't exactly related to the school, but it'll be good for you to hear about other things too. Section 4.2D3 of the town charter requires the town manager to prepare and submit to the select board an annual operating budget. Oh, I should mention, if anybody does not know, I'm Libby Gibson, the town manager, and Brian Turbot is our director of municipal finance, and we have Greg Turbot here. I'm sorry, Greg. Oh God, I'm gonna be hurt later. Greg Tivnan, assistant town manager. Sorry, I'm sorry. The document in the packet here, and this included in the presentation, is a summary containing an overview of updated projections, our recommendations, and next steps. We're going to take you through this. We also have a budget message which explains our recommendations, projections, and various issues in much more detail than this presentation. We'll give you an overview of that at the end. I think that's in the packet. I'm not quite sure. Okay. It is on the town website, and it looks like this. It's multi-pages, lots of attachments, but for people who want a lot more information about the budget, that is where to go. Our fiscal 2026 budget process began with the issuance of budget instructions to the town departments, including the school, in August mid-August. It's about a month earlier than in prior years, so that departments would have time to start more fully utilizing our budget software. It's called OpenGov. And because of the September special town meeting, we needed to get development of the budget going sooner. Preliminary projected expenses and revenues were reviewed with the select board on September 11th. We reviewed every general fund and enterprise fund departmental budget, including the school, plus with our cabinet, which the superintendent is on as a whole, from mid-October through the end of November. And along the way, we do a lot of analyzing, evaluating, reviewing of new information as it comes in. Is that page 2? Our fiscal 26 budget objectives include what is shown here. Our standard objective, of course, is to keep the recommended operating budget within projected revenue. We hope to address priorities in the select board strategic plan with a particular emphasis on the housing focus area. Focus on infrastructure maintenance and improvements, new facilities. Our biggest projects are shown here. We have other projects, but these are most significant due to their cost. We are continuing to address staffing issues with a variety of strategies. We're actively working on operationalizing the concept of sustainability throughout town government, and in particular with applicable projects. Capital planning and project management remain priorities, and because it's been difficult to dedicate resources not already committed to other functions in town to give projects the attention that they require, we are finding ourselves engaging and relying a lot more on consultants and engineers, which we would like to. They also require oversight. As mentioned in our budget presentation last year, we were in the process of advertising for a project manager position, which would be contained within town administration. And I'm pleased to report that we were able to fill that position. It's currently a hybrid position and is working out very well so far. We are continuing to work on filling a vacant funded town engineer position in the DPW, which would have a major role with DPW project management. As mentioned, I have a little bit more to go on there. Yep, thank you. As mentioned last year, management of town-controlled housing has become extremely time-consuming for several staff people. We were able to fill a rental property manager position in the housing office, and that certainly helped, but the volume and complexity of managing the growing number of town housing units, which are, by the way, available to school employees as well, is much too significant for one position. We've established a deputy housing director position to assist with this aspect of town employee housing, as well as other technical assistance for the director, but we have not yet been able to fill that position. Brian's going to take you through the next few slides.
Thank you very much. So, through all of the work that began in August, we made recommendation in the presentation to the select board of a projected revenue of $161,672,000, which is net of property tax abatements, which we projected at about $400,000. Expense budget recommendation is $161,444,000, which leaves unused levy capacity projected at $227,000, which is not an awful lot to get us between now and annual town meeting for anything unexpected, any declines in local estimated receipts or any unexpected changes that may occur would have to be funded through the unused levy capacity, which at this point is relatively a much smaller number than I think both the town manager and I would like, but that's what we have right at this moment in time to work with. So this slide shows a comparison from 25 to 26. 25 we presented a budget projection of 154,571,000. You can see it's 4.45% increase. This slide here essentially shows the revenue sources in a pretty colorful pie chart. As you can see, like most communities across the Commonwealth, tax revenue is the largest source of revenue. For us, rooms and meals tax is the next largest source of revenue. For many communities, state aid is the next largest source, but for us, rooms and meals tax at 9% is the next largest. State aid is 3% of that. We have projected state aid to be, level funded. The state has only recently started their budget process, so we're still a long way before we'll know what they'll be allocating to Nantucket. This came up blank for some reason. This expense categories, Operational expenses on the general fund side, 18.2 million. Operation, included in that is 898,000 of increased expense requests from various town departments. Town salaries of 29.5 million. All of 29.5 million does include all collective bargaining agreements currently in force, which is all of them. There's no open negotiations on the town side. 406,000 in town personnel expense increase requests included in that $29.5 million. School operational expenses, 7.1 million. Included in that is $500,000 in expense increase requests, and school salaries of 36,013,000, which does include all enforced collective bargaining agreements as well. Health insurance, 13,554,000 for active employees, 4,758,000 for retirees. That is a 7.5% projected increase. That is trending below medical rate inflation, which is anywhere between 8 and 8.5% right now. This is still somewhat of a hopeful target right now because when this is projected, we don't have a lot of the new claims data for the current fiscal year. So we're analyzing this on a pretty much monthly basis. We get an update from our consultants. General insurance, which includes property, liability, all other insurances other than health, 5,573,000. Thankfully, this is down from the projections of 18.5% to 20%, but it's still higher than we like at 14.7%. Debt service, 14,948,000, which is per the amortization schedule. It does include about a little over $2 million of increased debt service for some permanent borrowings that we went to market before to try to capitalize on some good rates that were available to us. Retirement, 8.5% increase from the prior year. We did receive the schedule, and this is consistent at 7,642,000. Enterprise fund subsidies, 17,922,000, allocating the 2.5% increase to the enterprise funds. Special appropriations, mosquito control, 190,000. Health and Human Services, 825,000, made up of 650,000 from the raise and appropriate general fund levy, and then 175,000 from the special purpose stabilization for substance abuse. County assessment projected at 237,000. This may change slightly as we go through their work on their budget. Reserve fund, 500,000. We hopefully will have no unpaid bills. If we do, we likely will fund them through free cash. Other post-employment benefits, 500,000 contribution to that stable reserve fund. And then cherry sheet charges, which is the offset to the local aid that we get from the state, 1,267,000. The largest portion for that, as most people recall, for the town of Nantucket, is the service for the NRTA. We have level funded that again because the state's barely started their budget process. We're not really sure where that will end up. 600,000 to the community school, and then the minimum capital funding requirement per the charter. We are required to allocate 1% of prior year local estimated receipts and prior year tax collections. So that came in this year at 1,810,000 for a total expense recommendation of 161,444,000. Just a graph, just kind of showing the expense increase request over the last 2 years. This is where you're jumping.
Okay. Been wondering about this. It's interesting. We don't have things like that at our meetings, but I guess this is a school, so you have toys. Okay, so our recommendations for what we call our expense increase requests, EIRs, are based on the following criteria: whether or not it's a legal mandate, higher prioritization is given for requests that support the select board strategic plan and or are recommended in a 2018 staffing study, whether the item improves departmental operations or efficiency, if it's necessary to support new programming, or if it's necessary to support existing programming, or if it provides continuity of operations. We use a point system to rank them. And I want to make a note about the requested EIRs for fiscal 26. We received a significant number of these, and while we've actually funded many of them, we can't fund all of them. We have to take the big picture into consideration, and we are fortunate to be able to fund what we're recommending, which is about less than half of what was submitted. The revenue increase from the room occupancy tax is allowing us to put forward recommendations to address areas which cannot progress without additional resources. However, we cautioned this to the board, and we're just going to mention our caution to you all. We are recommending that we exercise conservative use of this short-term rental revenue. For one thing, some of the budget items being recommended are ongoing. They will require continued funding into the future. Secondly, while we believe the funding source is still not at the point where the amount received in fiscal '24, so far in fiscal '25, and being projected for fiscal '26 can be fully relied upon to remain at those levels due to economic impacts that we cannot control and possible changes in how short-term rentals are regulated in Nantucket. I'll take them through. So these are all town, obviously, EIRs. I won't go through them all. They're shown here. In summary, there are 8 new positions and some additional appropriations for budgets that have personnel line items exceeded in the last fiscal year due to workload and other expenses, and some other, these are just mostly related to additional workload and additional functions of the town that have to be managed. On the expense side, that was personnel side on the prior slide, we're recommending some one-time increases. Again, these are all town-related, so I won't really go through all of them individually like I did at the board meeting, but you can see what they are here. I will mention one thing you might like, which is there's an increase in the town clerk requested in town meeting costs, which is for cooling in space at the school during town meeting when it's very warm out. As we learned last spring and in the fall, that was important. And we didn't totally, you're welcome over there. Okay, and these were additional ongoing expense requests to address additional operating costs. Oh yeah, I'm sorry, go back to those for just a second. So things like our housing budget, facilities, as you all are experiencing, we are too. There's just utility costs never really go down.
So the proposal for $1,795,000 in expense increase request, we proposed funding that $1,288,000 through the general fund and other revenues. Free cash, consistent with our free cash policy and the finance policies of the town, $216,000. One of the new position, or 2 of the new positions actually, one of them being the short-term rental registration compliance position, would be funded from the revolving fund that was created, and would be funded from the registration fees. That's $108,421 that would be funded from that revolving fund. And then county funding, $182,000 would be funding the paralegal and would be supplementing, what was the other position that's funding? And additional funding for our culture and tourism position as well. So that is how we're proposing to fund the $1,795,000 proposed expense increase request. Free cash, as of today, they are working on free cash, but the state, like many employers, is experiencing difficulty in finding some replacement employees. They've had retirements and transitions, so free cash certifications is a little bit behind, so we are still waiting for it. As of right now, we've proposed $216,000 to be used to allocate to town one-time expense increase request, and $300,000 was requested by the school administration for one-time expense increase request, which we are recommending funding for.
So just a few notes on some outstanding items and current unknowns. As Brian mentioned, state aid is always somewhat of a concern, and the state has not finalized its budget yet for fiscal '26, so we are projecting level funding. None of the citizen warrant articles that have been submitted for the 2025 annual town meeting have been included in our recommendations if they have cost implications. So if any of those are approved by voters, funding will either not be immediately available or priorities will have to shift. As mentioned earlier, we do not believe we have yet had what could be considered a normal year of short-term rental revenue receipts since expansion of the room occupancy tax to short-term rentals in 2019. COVID wasn't a normal year, year after that wasn't a normal year, and so we're kind of waiting for it to level out. And the impact of any potential future town regulations obviously is unknown at this point. Escalating construction costs have impacted recent projects. This isn't unique to Nantucket necessarily, but due to our location and associated complications with our location, our construction costs and other such expenses are significant. The costs of projects contained in the Coastal Resiliency Plan are astronomical, and we will need to prioritize these and seek alternative sources of funding wherever possible. We have well over $400 million worth of projects. This does go out about 30 years or so, but it's pretty significant. We have had a significant time investment into the preparations for expiration of the waste services agreement for the solid waste operations out at the landfill. There are increasing costs to managing solid waste on Nantucket caused by regulatory requirements and other factors such as travel and disposal at off-island waste facilities. The disposal of waste all over the world is only going up, not going down. And I think the retirement assessment actually has now come in, so that is known at this point. Offshore wind and right whale vessel speed restrictions have both taken, as I think you all know and have been involved with, an immense amount of time from several town staff, officials, committee, board, and commission members, and lots of people in town. Both of those remain somewhat unknown right now currently as to impact. There are some future potential costs that we wanted to just bring your attention to. A number of these are listed here. Some of them have already been covered. I'm not going to go through every single one. We have numerous plans in place that, and or are being in the process of being updated or started. All of them contain projects that will have cost impacts. Some overlap, some can be combined, but these are significant projects, and there are school projects included in there. We have discussed employee retention and housing extensively internally. In addition to town employee housing, community workforce housing is an ongoing goal and also has associated costs. There are numerous parallel efforts at work with affordable housing. While we now have an IT position dedicated to cybersecurity, the cost could be enormous if the town system becomes compromised from a cybersecurity attack. And I think you all are well aware of what a cybersecurity attack can mean for your operation. So we routinely like to note whenever possible, it's imperative that we all be vigilant with cybersecurity, including everybody who uses town email in school. NRTA service modifications, as Brian mentioned, could have an impact on the general fund budget through the state assessment to the town. The town's pilot program for free public transportation transit service throughout the state has been extended for another year at the state's expense, but we don't know if our state assessment could eventually be impacted. PFAS costs remain a high concern. They're largely unknown, but regulatory requirements are on the way from the state and federal government. That might necessitate significant capital and operating costs in the fairly near future. We've very recently seen an issue with one of the wells that isn't online, but is going to go through, going to need to go through a treatment process. And the extent of the entire PFAS situation is as yet not completely understood. We are realizing, as you all may be as well, increased maintenance and operational costs of aging facilities. Space is at a premium, and many buildings are showing signs of wear and tear. So next steps are just shown here. They're pretty straightforward. We have a public hearing while we're doing our presentation to you now. We have a public hearing, annual public hearing at the board meeting tomorrow night. Between mid-January and mid-March, the FinCom will review all of the budgets and other financial appropriations. We have town meeting on Saturday, May 3rd, and the election on Tuesday, May 20th. That's our overview, and we are very happy to answer any questions. And, I should also, don't want to forget this, mention very special thank yous to the assistant town managers, Rick Sears, Greg Tivnan, Brian, of course, and his staff member, Stephen Hunter, who is very new to this process this year, but did a great job. All the departments for their assistance with the process to develop the budget, and special acknowledgement to the superintendent and the school finance director for their help. They are very willing to talk with us at any time and provide everything that we ask for. So thank you guys very much. It's a good team.
You're compromised anyway.
I've also seen it before.
I have just a couple of questions. Regarding the speed restriction, are we just waiting to hear if we were granted the exemption, or what is the status?
Well, that's a good question. Nobody really knows the status. I think there's possibly some waiting to see what's going to happen with the new administration. We have been advised that the rule hasn't progressed through whatever the next step of the process is. So that was interpreted as a good sign that an exemption would be hopefully forthcoming. I do not want to say it's a done deal by any means, because who knows? But hopefully we got our point across, especially with an economic report that we commissioned last fall, which showed well over $100 million or more, but much more than that, in economic impact to the island. And it's not just economics, it's, as we all know, many, many other things that would cripple us.
So do we know why because the vineyard has known for quite a while that they received an exemption?
I'm not aware that the vineyard has received an exemption. And also,
Am I
If I
incorrect
may,
about that?
yeah, they have not, if I may, it's,
Thank
Long,
you.
I think it's Long Island that has.
there,
Ah, okay.
so the rule extends through the entire eastern seaboard.
I see.
And there are some locations, Long Island is one of them, there may be one other somewhere else, but I don't think the vineyard is in quite the same situation as our boat route. Theirs is shorter, and they're not really as impacted.
If I may, they don't have the same speeds that our boats do.
Right, that's right.
Thank you, yeah.
Thank you. And then I just was curious about the cultural affairs and special events coordinator, so that's a new position.
That is a position that originated in the police department, and it's essentially moving to culture and tourism, and there will be a backfill for a different position in the police department. We've seen a tremendous increase in public records requests, and the events coordinator, who is housed in police, has begun spending the majority of her time on public records requests in the police department. We also have seen a tremendous increase in town admin, but the idea was to move it into culture and tourism, and in the police department would still handle licensing, but the events themselves will go through culture and tourism.
I see. Thank you.
Sure.
I have a question. So you were talking about PFAS. That is really a problem we don't understand the extent of.
Yep.
And I think that their state has raised some questions about areas out in Nantucket that have contaminated water in wells. And the town would probably end up having to provide water out there.
Well, as you know, there is public water out to Nantucket, not everywhere. There are areas that people could connect to today. We also did install a water line on Tom's Way, for example, where there were contaminated wells. And really, Greg is more the expert on PFAS than me. But yes, it's a very significant problem, and it's not just here; it's everywhere. But obviously, our water supply is critical to our survival, so we have to pay maybe closer attention to it than some other municipalities might.
You know, the Quabbin Reservoir takes care of my hometown, but we're sort of sitting on what we're drinking.
We are, and we have established a new position called Environmental Contamination Coordinator, Administrator Coordinator, something like that. It's housed in the Public Health Department. We had that position filled about a year ago. That person left the position, and we just recently filled it again. And the person started this week. Monday, thank you. And we've invested over $13 million or so in PFAS-related issues. We've given several public informational sessions about it. So it is a pretty major focus of the town.
Okay. Thank you very, very much.
You're so
Thank
welcome.
you.
Thank you all. We, again, appreciate coming and for you listening to us. Thank you.
Budget development, technology. You're up.
Hi. Hello. Stephanie Hoban, thank you for having me. My budget is maybe gonna come up on screen, maybe not. Is on page 3 of, well, I'm not sure the town thing, but
It's the email, I think. There you go.
thank you, Katie. So we mostly just want to focus on some of the changes in the budget. The professional services is one of the biggest changes. And the reason for the savings that you're seeing here are because we have hired a managed service provider to cover the whole network. And we were able to eliminate some of the one-off managed service providers, and the sort of more global managed service provider will be taking over those duties and seeing to those services. And that is Northeast Technologies. Another change is we have eliminated the hardware or combined hardware and equipment line items because Martin and I couldn't really decipher what the difference was between the two of them anymore. I think at one point historically, equipment was for just Chromebooks and hardware was for servers and everything else, but what? Vice versa. Okay, vice versa. See, so we decided just to make it, hardware. Hardware or equipment?
We're condensing everything into hardware.
Into
because,
hardware.
Yes, the difference was to show Chromebooks. Chromebooks are part of our budget. We know the cost, so there's no need for
Separating them out. It's a
items that
fixed
cover the same thing.
fixed cost. And then there is an increase in software. Historically, the software has been underfunded, and we are trying to make efforts in having all district-wide software be under the technology budget. Things like Schoology, Aspen, so that's our LMS and our student information system, Raptor, which is our security system, and similar district-wide systems will go under that software budget. Hopefully, as we get the budget, the network stabilized, and I can bring in more of my ed tech, we'll have more district-wide ed tech pieces as well to add to that, and that will also go under the software budget. And those are the biggest changes that we're seeing in our budget this year. Does anyone have any questions?
No questions. Thank
Okay,
you.
that's where I like it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, Chip.
Good evening. Am I on the right thing, Katie?
Keep going.
I got it. I can't see. Oh, here I am. Okay.
Click on the last one. Oop,
Oh, no.
little higher.
charts.
There you go. Click on 41.
This is like a gag, right?
Way to the right,
All right.
the other column,
Here comes Alicia.
on the far
She's
side.
gotcha.
May I assist you, sir?
Hello.
Hello. This is my budget, I think. You need to go.
Nope, 41, page 41.
Try the far right column.
There you go.
Right here,
41.
right?
There we go.
Look,
Look at that. Oh my goodness.
here, can you?
Don't go anywhere. As we can look at the graphs, I was going to the graphs first, actually.
Yeah, just click it.
Look at that. So facilities is 12% of the entire school budget. And then of that, I'm gonna say, well, 75% of our budget is utilities and payroll. Really, that's good. Utilities costs, we track, and they're going up. Libby touched on a lot of this stuff. So we're increasing our utilities cost. The repair and the maintenance accounts, as well as the general contractor accounts, they're harder to predict. Those are the accounts that we use for our general maintenance, things that go wrong throughout the year. And these costs have really skyrocketed. They see it in the town and everywhere. Our construction costs have gone up. So that's one of our issues, and we're addressing that, trying to get more money into those accounts. And over the next couple of years, we're gonna get them up to where they should be. But we're all working together to make sure really, everything's done in the next couple of years, so we're looking good. We're all working together on it. That's really about it. We're not really anything new. Any questions?
No questions.
And one very small one,
Sure.
and it's a small number too. The phone seems to be a good part of your expense.
The phone?
In the next graph down below this one, I know it's only 2%, but
Right. And that's more of a tech thing, right? Telephone? Our phone system? Right. So that's part of it. I mean, that's worked in the tech. All our classrooms are interconnected with the telephone systems and all that, and it's hooked into our security systems as well. So that is actually a big part of what we're doing there.
understood.
No questions. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, I have a question, Jeff.
Sure.
What about, we had a lot of expenses around some vandalism.
Yeah,
Is that continuing or improved?
it's improved. You know, I hate to say that because, but it's been a lot better since, it was 2 years ago, and things have gotten better. So,
No more T-shirts down the toilets?
well, I don't know, not today.
Don't jinx us, Dr. Lepre, don't jinx us.
Okay,
Thank you.
good, thanks. Alicia?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
One moment here, let's get this. Okay. All right, so not to create confusion, but my budget's actually separate. I'm Alicia Graziade, and I'm the executive director of the Nantucket Community School. Oh, and that's athletics, sorry. These are not in the same order, hold on one sec. Back in the top.
You're right above facilities.
Oh, I see it. That's right, Chip was going to do my presentation for me. I recall that now. Right? Yes. Yes. So, our budget is separate, and it's made up of three main components. So we get an appropriation from the town, as you just saw, for $600,000. That has remained the same for the last 3 years. We'll talk about that in a moment. Fees and gifts. So the appropriation for FY '26 is $600,000. We utilize our appropriation to keep programming affordable, and by offsetting the administrative and health insurance costs for our staff. Our main difference of our budget than other budgets is that the health insurance costs come right out of our budget. So the school's a little different. The town covers those costs in a way that we do not, right? So, or they do not, but we do. For the appropriation, health insurance costs have gone up between 8 and 10% consistently over the last few years. We have not seen an increase in our appropriation. So you can imagine how that affects our budget. It's not ideal. Additionally, the cost of living has gone up. So administrative costs have gone up, and the cost of salaries for our employees. We're still not even quite there yet, and we're not competitive with the school or town employee salaries. So that's another issue that we have with this appropriation staying the same. On the bright side, we have received over $200,000 in grants, and that is allowing us to provide programs that are essential to the community. Right now above us, we have ESOL registration tonight, and we have that almost entirely funded from gifts in our community, specifically the Nantucket Community Foundation. These programs would not be able to be offered if we did not receive those gifts. That would be a huge deficit. So, as we continue to move forward, my hope is that the appropriation will be larger moving into the next fiscal year, because we have not seen a change in the last 3 years. Any questions?
You said $200,000 in grants, and then
More
there was-
than.
And then there was another number for the community foundation that they supply. How much was that?
So I can't divulge those numbers in a
Okay.
public forum like this, but the program that is happening tonight is almost entirely covered, and we have over, in a given year, 100 students in that program.
Yeah.
And 10 instructors.
Understood. So my question is kind of simple. I've played this game far too many times as well, where so many things are reliant on grants, and grants aren't always guaranteed.
Correct.
So, what's your fallback plan?
We would not be able to offer those programs any longer,
That's hard.
and that would be very unfortunate.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just always important to shine a light on that fact that grants are such a huge part and are not guaranteed. And I always wish you luck, and I apply for a lot of grants myself for other things, and they're so competitive. And you know, most years you hit like 1 in 4 grants, and you have to apply for an awful lot more than you get. But getting 200,000 a year, that's to be commended. Well done.
Thank you. And I have to give a great deal of thanks to my staff in the community for those grants, because it does take us, a great deal of time to apply, but also we do live in a very generous community, and I don't want to seem ungrateful, because we are very grateful for everything that we've been given there.
No questions or comments.
No questions, other than I feel like you've really increased the visibility of the school. Alicia, I think it's just, you've done a really wonderful job. I feel like it's out in the community more than it ever has been, so.
Thank you, Laura.
Congratulations.
We hope we can do more. That really is the goal.
No, I think you've really improved things. Because I can remember when it was essentially one guy was a woodworker and other people doing exotic things that nobody wanted to get involved in. So, thank you very, very much, Alicia.
I crocheted at the community school as a 3rd grader, so,
If I may.
spirit still lives on.
I wanted to thank Alicia. You've done a remarkable job in moving programming forward, in looking for alternative funding. It is a very difficult situation for you. It's not a 501c3, and yet it isn't part of the school system. So you're kind of living in an interesting place. And just know that the public schools support you immensely, and will continue to
Thank you.
push for increased funding for you.
Thank you. Is it Matt? Is Matt up next?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Travis Lombardi, the Director of Athletics, was unable to be here this evening, so I will be presenting on his behalf. Excuse me. Hopefully pretty short and sweet. We aren't looking for much, or if anything. As you can see, the athletics department is 2% of the district's budget, and it's pretty straightforward, at least in our eyes. It's the same percentage as last year, a slight increase to a total of $1,004,722. This bump was necessary to accommodate the increase in salaries and a few added stipends. We added JV assistant positions, which we think was super beneficial for our programs. That gives us 4 total paid positions for our varsity JV programs, and I think that that's allowed us to have a good amount of more committed and dedicated coaches instead of, unfortunately, having to tell them that they were volunteers in the past. So that's been nice to have. The majority of our budget is payroll at 75%. That's at $746,716. The second largest is transportation and professional services, which is 18%, in the amount of $181,871. Insurance and other expenses are 2%, supplies are 4%, and membership dues and rental fees are 2%. Just like in previous years, our operating budget is supplemented by our revolver account. It should be noted that we still continue to rely on our user fee system to cover additional travel expenses, which can include overnight stays, tournament travel, coach buses, state tournament games, any sort of random thing that may pop up like that, and any larger purchase items that may not be factored into our annual budget. All this being said, we will continue to operate the athletic department within our current budget system, and we won't be requesting any additional funds. Dr. Lepre, before you asked, we were going to present a good bump if we did get Bill Belichick to come down here, but unfortunately he moved down south. If you have any additional questions or comments, I can do my best to answer tonight, but if not, Travis will be available.
No questions, thank you.
You beat the Vineyard in football, you beat the Vineyard in basketball. I mean, I think,
And soccer.
And soccer.
I know.
And field hockey.
Okay. On the user fees, have we had to supplement that? Or is it to make sure that every kid that wants to play gets to play?
We do offer, we have a waiver form that we will give out to families or students who come and ask personally. So we ultimately want everybody to be able to play, if cost is an issue or not. So long story short, yes, we do offer a waiver for that.
Keep it up.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, committee discussions and votes to be taken. First will be a vote to approve the mini grant from Cape Cod 5 for $500 to NES for Taylor Fashion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A vote to approve the mini grant from Cape Cod 5 for $500 to NES for Jocelyn Ramirez.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
A vote to approve the November 12th meeting minutes.
So moved.
I wasn't present, can I even?
And we can't vote on it.
On the phone.
Chantal?
Chantal?
Yes,
Okay,
She's available. So
I can barely hear you, Dr. Lepre.
just say,
We just need a second on the minutes for November 12th.
November 12th, okay, second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Transfers and invoices,
So moved.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
if I may, before you vote on, if I may, I want to bring up a very late addition. This is not to be voted on simply because it did not make the agenda, but there was a field trip permission form for overnight travel that arrived over the vacation. So wanted to make sure you had a chance to look at that. There's no need to vote today. The field trip will happen between now and our next school committee meeting, but if you had any questions or wanted to discuss, we can certainly do that now. This is a standard music festival that happens every year.
Good.
Yeah, it's great.
Any questions?
No.
Great.
Okay. Student council representative, what do you got?
So there isn't too much to report this week as we've just returned from break, But over the break, there were a couple sports teams who had games, and I know many sports teams also had practice over break. Yesterday was the first rehearsal for this year's spring musical, which is The Little Mermaid. And at the end of next week, the Wintertide Fair will be held at the high school, and this is an event that showcases what students in the art, music, and culinary classes have been working on. So there will be art displays, there will be a performance from the rock band and the Accidentals and Naturals, and I'm pretty sure there will also be food from the culinary classes. So
And when is that, Nora?
I believe it's the 16th, next Thursday. Yeah, and then the Poetry Out Loud event, this will also be held at the Wintertide Fair. And this is basically like a poetry recitation competition. It's held across the country, and it's something that the school has been doing for a couple years now. And it's really a great opportunity for students who love poetry and literature to showcase, their love for that. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Nice.
May I, through the chair? I just wanted to share that the Wintertide, it is the 16th, it starts at 5, and it's actually in the CPS cafeteria this year. So
Thank you.
it should make it more convenient for people to attend.
Thank you.
Okay, subcommittee.
Nothing to report?
If I may, on behalf of the negotiations committee, the ESP negotiations are proceeding. We've had several fruitful meetings, and we'll continue on Thursday.
Great.
And we need to have a policy meeting as soon as the language has been drafted for the competency determination as well as H&I policies. So
Yeah.
I'll be reaching out.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, agenda for the next meeting?
Yes, so we will continue our budget development with special services and other schools. We'll have each school present their budgets. EL will also present. The 1-8 Foundation is a organization that we have been learning, has provided a lot of grant funding to us for professional development around applied learning. That's happened particularly at the middle school. So the people who have been involved with 1-8 Foundation will share a little bit about what they've been doing. We will do a bowling update, and we hope to have representatives from Veritas to come as well.
Did you work with the Vineyard on having the kids singing the national anthem?
I myself did not, but the Vineyard choral director and the Nantucket choral director agreed to work together and have them do it
I think that
simultaneously.
was a fairly moving thing.
I would love to take credit for it, but it was really their decision, which is great. I hope that in the future we can do the same thing with bands, but it's a little bit more competitive on each side. There's more pep band work happening when your team scores, so
Right.
a little harder.
Any other business? Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, it's not. It was the only ones.